the Intersection Podcast. Inspiration. Transforming lives from the inside out. The Intersection Podcast. With Ken Gober and Donnie Shell Jr. Is the Intersection Podcast? Come meet us at the crossroads.
Hey, I'm Ken Gober, and this is the Intersection Podcast. We have a special guest in the house, and actually, all of our guests are special. We have Donnie Shell, my partner on the ones and twos, and it's going to be a great show today. We have with us a guest, Elizabeth Stelmach.
Yep.
I said it right.
You said it right.
Yeah, we have Elizabeth. We like to call her Beth, and she is the director of our Recovery Living Program. And if you don't know what the Recovery Living Program is, she'll tell you eventually about what that program is all about. It's an exciting program that we have here at Charlotte Rescue Mission. And once again, this podcast is sponsored by Charlotte Rescue Mission. And let's get this thing going. Hey, Elizabeth, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Good.
Thank you for deciding to be a guest on a show. And we know our residents are important and superstars, but our staff is definitely superstars, and as many superstars we can get on the show we want. So tell us what your title is, your role is, and then tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the director of Recovery Living. I oversee all of the case management team, and I am an alumni of Charlotte Rescue Mission.
Stop it right there.
Yeah. So I actually came through Charlotte Rescue Mission in 2016. I was raised in Stanley County. I was raised in the Charlotte area, had a good Christian upbringing, and in my teen years, things just kind of went sideways, and fell in with some bad relationships, and one thing led to another, and it dropped me in Charlotte Rescue Mission at one point, and that's kind of where my journey to working here kind of began a little bit, because I didn't really think going into Dove's Nest back then. I didn't think about like entering into the recovery field. That wasn't like I went into. I think at the time the program was called WISE, and I went back to school for my cosmetology license, and it wasn't until COVID hit that I even started working in this field. So
Wow.
yeah.
So the program was called WISE. It wasn't called Core Program at the time.
Well, core program was core program, but they had, instead of having like a recovery living community, there were like 12 beds at Dove's Nest that were designated transitional beds. And instead of being called KEY at the time, which was Keep Educating Yourself, the program was called WISE, which is Women in Search of Empowerment, I believe is what it stood for. So it was essentially the KEY program that we have today.
And for our listeners out there that don't know the structure of Charlotte Rescue Mission, yes, it's Charlotte Rescue Mission, but we do have Dove's Nest and we have Rebound. And since you have insight into both sides, is there, let the people know, is there a major difference between the Rebound and Dove's Nest, although they're the same program?
No, they're both 120-day programs. The key difference is one's for men and one's for women. I think that the programming itself might have a little bit of a difference in it, as one is more geared towards like the male aspect of recovery versus women, and the parenting classes and family classes that they may attend. But I don't think there's much of a difference between the two.
So let's say that, let me ask this: your past and your current role. How does those roles impact our residents here at Charlotte Rescue Mission? Because you were case manager at first.
No, I was in admissions first.
Tell us about your journey here at Charlotte Rescue Mission, because that's one of the cool things I like here, that you can start in one place and you can end in another place. So tell us about your journey.
So I actually started it's funny, I started in the admissions department, but in all reality, the first place I applied at Charlotte Rescue Mission was for a case manager, and it was under a different program director at the time, and she didn't get to my resume until after I'd already been hired by Charlotte Rescue Mission. So, I had been working at a detox as a tech supervisor, like a tech manager at a detox, and I had done a lot of referrals out to Charlotte Rescue Mission when I was in the resident coordinator role over there. And so, I had communication with the director of recovery living, or director of admissions, I'm sorry. And she said, well, I have a job here. So I had applied, and I'd actually started in the admissions department. And I worked in the admissions department for about a year, and then the case management role opened up, and I transitioned over into case management.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So having a background of a recovery background, right, and then being a counselor, a case manager, how do you think your role impacts our residents on a day-to-day basis?
I really like the recovery living aspect of it, because we really get to be there to help them rebuild their lives. Like, they come into CORE, they spend the 4 months in the CORE program, and they learn the basic tools. But when they get to us, that's when the real work sets in, as far as, are you actively going to your meetings and doing what you're supposed to do? Are you gaining employment? Are you going back to school? Like, we get to see these residents, like, we see them when they come into CORE program, but we really get to watch them grow once they graduate CORE and they start going out into the real world. And that behavior is a direct reflection of the things that they learn here at Charlotte Rescue Mission and the things they do out there. Like, we partner with a couple of different agencies. So we get the pleasure of seeing these residents move on from Charlotte Rescue Mission and kind of go into their own housing. And so it's just a really cool thing to see somebody that was technically homeless when they come in, and we get to help them move into their new apartment that they're going to have on their own. It's just like completely mind blowing.
And then do you think you're better equipped to help them with the challenges that they will encounter once they complete CORE program?
I think so. Our team is about a 50-50 mix. And I say that because half of our team are themselves in recovery. And then the other half of the team are just, they're people that have a servant's heart. So I think that we make a pretty good mishmash of people, trying to help these residents, but we definitely know what it's like to be in their shoes. A lot of us do. And we know what it takes to kind of be successful at this thing and the things that we've had to do. And we just try to relay that to our residents that, in order to get what we have, you have to do what we've done, right? And there's nobody better to lead you out of a dark place than someone who has clawed their way out of that dark place first.
Yeah, that is. I truly believe that a lot of times, even with my own story, a lot of times I talk to people and they kind of say, "Oh yeah, you really don't know what I'm talking about." And then when I share my story, it's, "Oh, okay, yeah," and you get what they call in the streets a little bit more street cred,
right?
When you tell them your testimony. So if someone's watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, we keep saying recovery living. We say things like key. We say things like life skills. Can you give us a breakdown of what our recovery living program entails or involves, and the different components of our recovery living program? Because it's a great program, and I don't think a lot of people understand it's truly an aftercare program. But tell us a little bit about it.
So recovery living is the all-encompassing term for it, right? That's the whole shebang, right? Well, within recovery living, we have different components, right? We have the key component, which is keep educating yourself. So in this particular section, residents can go back to school, and then they get a discounted program rate. So their program fees are cheaper than that of the standard community living resident. And they are only required at that level to have like a part-time job. They're required to go to meetings. Every resident within recovery living is required to go to a certain amount of meetings. In the transition phase, that's the first 60 days after they complete the CORE program, if they're not going to go into key or life skills. So they get up to 60 days to obtain full-time employment, get used to, attending 12-step meetings and just, kind of dipping their toes in the outside world. Now, while they're in transition, those first 60 days in transition and key, they continue to reside at the facility that they went through, whether it's here at Beatty Center for Rebound or at Dove's Nest. We also have the life skills program. So there's 3 different options right now for the life skills program. We have our Community Matters Cafe life skills program, which is a 6-month program where, we provide the residents with bus passes. They reside at Hope Haven. They go to work on a daily basis at the Community Matters Cafe and learn all different aspects of the cafe. And then they continue to attend, 12-step meetings. Then we have the maintenance and the Dove's Nest Kitchen Life Skills. Those are both 9-month programs. With maintenance, they work with our maintenance team here at Charlotte Rescue Mission, and then the kitchen program right now works with the kitchen manager over at Dove's Nest. But once again, they get a monthly bus pass. They reside at Hope Haven, and they continue to go to 12-step meetings. And then we have our community living. Those are the residents that live off-site at our off-site housing. We have a bunch of locations spread throughout Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Those residents have started paying program fees. They've got jobs. They're attending their 12-step meetings, and they're just it's all kind of like a little stair-step process to get you back into living in the real world and being self-sufficient.
And it's true. It's true. It's an aftercare because they're still kind of in your care, so they have to see the case managers.
Absolutely.
We're kind of giving them their freedom. However, they have that. Yeah,
absolutely. So each resident is required to meet with case management at least once a month. They're still subjected to random drug screenings. If they want to go out on an overnight pass, that's great. They can go on an overnight pass. They just need to let their case manager know that they're leaving. it just gives that extra little layer of accountability that maybe wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
And because I think the uniqueness of Charlotte Rescue Mission is it's not just a 29-day or a 60-day or 90-day program. It's 120 days, but even after that, we don't just say, okay, go ahead and do your best. If they qualify, they can stay on board for another 2 years,
up
right?
to 2 years.
2 years,
mm-hmm.
and have that care and have that support,
mm-hmm.
And that rally I like to call to push them forward towards success.
Yeah, and even beyond, just the recovery living program itself, we also have these partnerships out in the community where we have these resources that that are invaluable to us.
That is a great thing. That's one of the reasons why I love working here, because we a lot of times people think it's just a homeless shelter,
mm-hmm.
but we do so much more here at Charlotte Rescue Mission. You know what? This is our Director of Recovery Living, Elizabeth Stelmach. Man, I knew I was going to mess it up. I kept on. I tell Donnie, help me, but he didn't help me. But
I've heard it said worse.
But I just call her Beth. But we're going to take a quick pause for the calls right now, and we're going to come back and second half of our show. The cool thing here on the Intersection Podcast is all about making choices and decisions in life. And we have an important question for Beth when we come back. I'm Ken Gober. My partner is Donnie Shell, and we'll be right back with the Intersection Podcast, meeting you at the crossroads. We're back with the Intersection Podcast. I'm Ken Gober, and we have for our guest, our Director of Recovery Living, Elizabeth. We've been having some great conversation and a great time. So, Elizabeth, what we like to do here in the second part of our show is 2 questions that we have. The podcast is called The Intersection, meeting you at the crossroads. So the one question that we like to ask all of our guests is, what was your crossroad in life? Meaning, we always come to a junction in our lives where we have to pivot, and I'll say we have to go either left or we have to go right, and then we have to live with those decisions. If you think about it, what was a major crossroad in your life that impacted your life and put you on either the path that you're on now or the path that you're on now? That's a bad path. No, it's not a bad path, but put you on the path that you're on now. What was that crossroad?
So honestly, it was what led me to come into Dove's Nest. So I didn't even know that like this was a thing in Charlotte, and I grown up in the area. I was running the roads of Charlotte long before I ever came in anywhere near Charlotte Rescue Mission. And so I had been in and out of, hospitals, jails. And I think it was 2016. I had gotten out of my second time in jail. I'd spent 107 days in jail. So 2016, beginning of 2017. And it was January 2017. It had snowed and there was like ice on the ground. My family wanted nothing to do with me.
Wow.
I was unemployable and I was homeless. So I got out of jail and I didn't know where I was going to go, and I ended up squatting in a house. And in Albemarle and eating in soup kitchens. And after about 3 days of that, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And my dad worked in outpatient registration at the hospital in Albemarle. And so I walked up to the hospital and I checked myself in. I told him I was suicidal. And that kind of started the ball rolling to where I got moved. I stayed in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and then they moved me to this place called Bridge to Recovery, which was like a holding pattern for people between like getting out of jail or the hospital and going to treatment. And Bridge to Recovery was actually who put me in touch with Dove's Nest. So I ended up staying at Bridge to Recovery for a week, and then got accepted into Dove's Nest, and life's just kind of been
kind of moved from there.
Yes.
In the path and the decision that you chose to take. And so those challenges in your life, and as it relates to our residents here, do you think that does that help you bridge the gap between our residents and what you do every day? And do you think that you're making I will say a dent, but making a great for them?
I think so. Because I also try to keep in mind that like it's not every resident is going to have some mind shattering, like burning bush aha moment, right? Sometimes it's that seed. And that's all I'm here for, is if I can plant that seed and one day it kind of develops into something, then I feel like my job is done. But with, each one of these residents, like I see a little bit of me. And when they first see me, they may be like in my current state. I know that I've had it said to me before that I would have never pegged you for somebody that's ever had an issue, right?
Yeah.
But if I share a little bit of my story and I share the homelessness, the incarcerations, the family not talking to me, losing everything, sleeping in a car, living in Hidden Valley, they tend to realize that I really do know how they feel. And I'm able to relate with them a little better.
And I like what you said about the seed, because I think that's what we do around here a lot of times. And I work on the back end of as you know, from data and from grants and our donors. And a lot of times people look at numbers, but people don't realize that what we do here, our main goal is to plant a seed that Christ can change your life. And they even talk about it in the Bible that Jesus said it's just a seed that's planted, right? We don't know. All we're there to do is plant a seed, and we water it a little bit. Someone else may water it more, and it's not always you come here, you get clean, life is great.
Right.
It's just a seed, and I like how you say that.
Right. So, and I tell them, like, when I speak at the cafe graduations, like, life be lifing.
Yeah.
Like, life's not going to start being good just because you got sober. Like,
Right.
stuff's still going to happen. You're still going to have to deal with death and job loss and all these other things. But the whole purpose of Charlotte Rescue Mission and, 12-step programs is to teach you how to deal with life on life's terms. Like, that's the ultimate thing. Like I said, I grew up right outside of Charlotte. I was raised in a Christian household, but somewhere along the way, I lost my way. And it wasn't, I was never agnostic or atheist. It was just, I knew who God was, but I was pretty sure He didn't want anything to do with me. And, you know, I came to Charlotte Rescue Mission and I got to experience the things, the classes, and, you know, they had us going to 12-step meetings, and at the time they would take us to church or have us live stream elevation. And I slowly got to develop a new relationship with the God of my understanding. And, you know, and that's what it's all about, really.
So here's the last question that we like to ask everyone. What is your why? Why do you do what you do? What is your why when you get up in the morning every day? And I can see it across your head. I can see the answer just ran right across your head right there.
So, I mean, there's a couple of different things, right? So at the core of it, I would say it's because I want these residents that are coming through here to know that if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? That they have the ability to do this. You know, if I can get sober, if I can reestablish relationships, if I can go from homeless to homeowner, you know, nobody wants me around, to I have a beautiful family, I've got my daughter back. Like, if I can do it, they can do it. And that's the main reason for me.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being a part of the Intersection podcast. We have our Director of Recovery Living, Elizabeth Stelmach. I am Ken Gober, and this has been a great show. And stay tuned, Charlotte Rescue Mission. If you don't know about it, now you know. I want to thank my partner, Mr. Donnie Shell, and we'll be back for another show. I'm Ken Gober, and this is the Intersection Podcast. See you at the crossroads.
It's the Intersection Podcast. Come meet us at the crossroads.